Drugs, the plague of esports. From basketball to cycling to football, athletes have been caught using drugs to increase their game performance. But the leagues and sanctioning bodies of these sports have cracked down severely on this issue, and for the most part, it has gotten a lot better. In esports, however, this is not the case. Just last year, former Cloud9 player Semitis said that he had been in tournaments where the players were, quote, all on Adderall. ESL and other leagues have begun testing at tournaments for performance-enhancing drugs, or PEDs for short, but very loosely. Sadly, this is a very serious problem right now, as it would be incredibly easy for a professional player to take a drug like Adderall and get away with it. But before we get into how we should stop drug abuse, we must first define what is a performance-enhancing drug and what isn't. Of course, prescription drugs like Adderall and Dextrodyne, which should clearly be banned as it is illegal to take without a prescription. But there is a bigger market of drugs that create a greater gray area of what should and what should not be allowed. Nopiotropics. While you might not know what a nopiotropic is, you may have heard of some, for example, Alpha Brain. Claims say that Alpha Brain can improve your memory, focus, and processing speed, all traits vital for someone to excel at CSGO, Overwatch, etc. There is nothing illegal or wrong with using a nopiotropic like Alpha Brain, and Alpha Brain is just one example. Do a quick search on Amazon and you'll find dozens of products claiming to increase brain power. But the question remains, should professional players be allowed to use them? This is up to the leagues to decide, but they need to make a decision right now, because currently there are no strict guidelines or regulations, which makes the pro scene a wild, wild west drug fest. Once the leagues decide on what is and what isn't allowed, there's another beast that needs to be tackled. Testing. As of right now, leagues like ESL only test at tournaments. This is an issue. This means that during online sessions and during training, players can use PEDs freely with no possibility of getting caught. This used to be the case in many sports. Many athletes would train with developmental drugs to make themselves incredibly fit. Come time for the season, that was, until the World Anti-Doping Agency, more widely known as the WADA, and many other sporting leagues caught on to what the players were doing. Players knew they couldn't use PEDs in any competition, so they conjured up sort of a loophole only use them during training. In response, the WADA and most sporting leagues started and what was later known as random drug testing. Now, athletes who compete in sports and leagues must be available 24/7 for testing at any 365 days of the year. This has dramatically reduced the use of drugs across the world of sports. Not to say that the problem has been solved, but it is much more controlled. If CSGO and other esports continue to grow in popularity and more money continues to flow into prize pools and sponsorships for players and teams, then there will undoubtedly be a higher pressure to perform. And with a higher pressure to perform, players will be drawn to using things to improve their game. This issue needs to be dealt with now before it's too late, with a simple guideline for which drugs are and are not allowed, as well as a system for random drug testing put in place. It would allow esports to thrive, without the background knowledge of people only win because of the drugs they take. This is the conclusion of my presentation. To wrap it up, this is a really good, interesting thing to research. I'm gonna be honest with you, it was probably one of my favorite things to do. It brought a lot of insight on the things that the lengths that people are willing to go to actually win. And honestly, it brings it out to a point where all of my sources and everything, it brings it up perfectly to where I can actually experience and be there on the days that the players actually were basically going against it. I mean, in some of the clips in the videos, well, actually I didn't include any, but in some of the clips that I had, it was a team that was doing the best that they could, performing against a team that had reaction speeds that were like lightning. I mean, and this person would literally like 180 in like a millisecond and instantly headshot. And it just goes to show you that humans can always succeed and succeed better with drugs. But don't do drugs, stay in school. Maybe it's don't do school, stay in drugs? I can't remember. Anyways, thanks for listening. Have a good one.